a real thrill to be nominated for anything. I honestly don't think I've won an award ever. I was trying to imagine like the last time I did, and it might have been like a Scout Award or something like in the early 90s. So obviously to be nominated by DJ Mag is very cool. I'm very thankful for that. And for me, it's like a really nice way to celebrate what's been a really great few years for me. I think you're right in terms of, you know, like the big shifts in playing for me from playing hip hop and jazz and soul and things like that into being more known as like a, you know, more of a peak time DJ. It's interesting as well because this idea of the breakthrough category, I mean, I put out my first record in 2005, so I have actually been doing it for 10 years. But I think it just shows that you can kind of like have a career in one genre and then break through into another. And I feel that's a little bit like what I did in the last 2 or 3 years. So it feels fair, even though I've been making music for a very long time. I don't really think it was anything intentional. I mean, I get asked about it a lot. It wasn't like I woke up one day and thought like, oh, I would love to play the Panorama Bar or something. Like, definitely was the furthest thing from my mind. But the funny thing is, like, I've always collected house records anyway. I've always collected techno. I'm the kind of guy that collects, you know, I'm just crazy about records, and it just felt right because in a way I was kind of getting a bit frustrated with the sort of scene I was in. Not to say that there was anything wrong with any of the people in it, they're all great, but it was just like I was really struggling to find my way, and it was during that period where I kind of retreated a bit from everyone. The music that came out was much more up-tempo, and I think it's been really fun because on Don't Be Afraid over the last few years, I've kind of used that as a platform to experiment with all sorts of things, and I wouldn't say that I've really stayed purely within house and techno either. I really just wanted to make disco, actually. I just love old disco records, and so I was trying to make disco, but what came out was, you know, some fucking house or something. So there you go. You never know where the studio is going to lead you, really. To be honest, like, the one thing that has changed is I got very frustrated because I've been running like the same old like Windows XP computer since like 2003, and all my old shit was all made on that one computer. And then recently, about 6 months ago, it really started to die, and finally the power supply went on me. That was like a really sad day. So what I realized was it was 2015, I needed to actually get with the program. So now I'm using much more like up-spec kind of stuff, like an RME sound card and like a Power Mac and stuff. And the main thing with that is like I can now have like 8 tracks as opposed to like 2, which I used to have on the old computer. So I don't know, sometimes like upgrading is, you know, not always for the best. Because now I've got all this amazing stuff, I seem to struggle really to write with it, because as soon as you take away the limitations, you know, like it gets harder somehow. I don't know why, but I've now got all these amazing plugins and everything's in 64-bit and the sound quality is so much better. It actually makes it a lot harder. When you're using a really crap computer, it's amazing what you can do with it. So there you go, it has changed. Maybe not for the better, we'll see. I think actually like the thing of playing different genres and collecting a bit more broadly, I think one thing that I did notice was maybe it got a little bit too comfortable. Once you start playing in clubs and people expect you to play 3-4 hours and mix perfectly, I feel like that can be a little bit of a block in its own way, because you can get a little bit too confident in just not challenging yourself and maybe not challenging the flow. And the funny thing is, when I used to DJ hip-hop stuff, I used to really play like mash a whole bunch of different things together, and it would really be from one extreme to another, and maybe it was a bit too much. And then now I feel like sometimes like I'm just staying too much on like this kind of like tempo locked thing. Maybe I'll move up and down throughout the set, maybe I'll go like 120, 130, 140. I'm actually trying to kind of relearn that sort of like I don't give a fuck attitude a bit more, where you know, just throw in something that's completely random, and I feel like definitely like I've got a good record collection, so I need to be playing weirder, crazier stuff, so like from that collection and feel confident about it. It's funny because I've been started doing quite a few workshops and things this year, and I get a lot of young people coming up to me after the show and sort of asking about, you know, tips and things like this. And I would say to young people now, you know, we're in an age of where, you know, you're not constrained by this old kind of familiarity where you just have to send all your stuff to certain kind of DJs in the hope that they will play it and you'll get embraced into a scene, which is a little bit like what happened to me when I was younger. Now, you could just set up a Bandcamp page, put a whole bunch of stuff up on there, maybe give it away for free or pay what you want or release it on cassette, but you can really build an audience. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be a big audience, and start in that way. And I think that's really the most important thing, because the one question young people keep always asking me when I talk to them is that they're always like, oh, you know, I want to be kind of this big DJ and I want to be playing on these big shows and stuff. A lot of the time you just say like, dude, why do you want to do that? You know, I know it looks really fun, but you know, actually, you know, look at the Twitter feeds of all of those people that are flying around. It's all DJs complaining, right? You know, they're all like, oh, hotel room. You know, why don't you just stay focused on making something personal and different, and that's you, and get your personality in the music. And I think that's really the most important thing. Focus on the music. Everything else will come to you in a very natural way. So that's the only piece of advice I really have, but I mean it.